how many fines do you think he would have today if we were to take the young Shawne Merriman and bring him to today's play?
I'll be playing for free.
Yeah.
I'll be playing for free.
If there was a father-son game, would you go in and clean him out?
100%. Absolutely.
Tony Richardson, he takes my helmet and he hides my helmet because they know me. I'm going to go right back in the game. T. Rich grabbed me. He says, man, if you don't sit your butt down, don't you know you just got your lights knocked out? You better sit your butt down. You ain't going back in there. You going to get them next time we play them.
Give me the keys to the kingdom, cause I came, I saw, I conquered it all.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Home Stretch presented by Bet365. Priest, we're back in the saddle, man. How you doing with the riff raff and rabble?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about being on this episode as well. Got a guy that I've been wanting to have a conversation with for probably over the last 20 plus years.
20 plus years.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You know their phones and stuff, right? You can.
Yeah, we the last time that we had a chance to have an occurrence or an appearance of where we were at the same place. I don't know if you remember, there used to be a thing called the Playboy Mansion.
I do, and I've attended.
Yeah, and so
it's memorable.
I've also attended, memorable as well.
Yeah.
You're kind of there's the lawn area that you kind of go out in. There's the pool, bars, lots of bunnies. The grotto is there. I think probably we're giving a lot of clues where people can probably guess where what this is, who was responsible for that. But that was actually the last time that I had a chance to talk to our special guest that's here.
All right, well, let's read off some of his accolades here if I could.
Absolutely.
Just a little bit, because I want to hype him up a little bit. I mean, this is crazy. He played at the University of Maryland, right? He was a Terrapin. Crushed it there. Totally awesome. First round draft pick, pick number 12 overall. But he was the first pick of his position. Okay.
Gotcha.
That's pretty important. Played for the San Diego Chargers. Okay, I'm giving some hints here for the audience. So if you're playing at home, see at what point you can guess this. NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's not bad, right? 3-time Pro Bowl selection, 2-time first team All-Pro, NFL sack leader in 2006, and he made the NFL 2000s All-Decade team. This guy finished with 296 tackles and 45 and a half sacks. His first name's Shawne. His last name's Marriman. Shawne Marriman, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
What's up, my man? How you doing?
Good. Welcome in. So apparently, Priest Holmes has been trying to call you for 20 plus years, man. You dodging him, or have you been changing your number, or are you giving out fake numbers? What are you doing?
No, man, I had the same one. In fact, we got a bunch of the same mutual friends, so I was always kind of able to keep up with them, at a distance for some years. So this is cool for me, man, to be on.
It is pretty ironic that, as a defensive player and you and an offensive player, and you two are both supposed to meet all the time, and it's taken this long to finally meet again. But
yes.
Give me some background on Shawne from your perspective, Priest. If you're to describe this guy, if you're in an elevator and you do the traditional elevator pitch, how would you describe Shawne Merriman?
So first thing, you wouldn't want to be on the elevator alone by yourself with Shawne, and especially the younger Shawne. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think that Shawne now, I'm looking at someone that's matured. He's always been clean shaven, so I can tell that that's something that he's continued to keep that high standard about his appearance. It looks great. He's got the whole buff thing going on.
Yeah, he's pretty jacked.
He's got that background in promotions and fighting, and I think he's got some exhibitions that fighting exhibitions that he has going on. So I'm pretty excited about where he's at in life right now. I know the younger Shawne, like I said, you don't want to be on an elevator with him, don't want to be in tight spaces with him. I've had an occurrence, and we'll probably get to that, where there was a tight space. Remember I told you, Shawne, I have this ability to make people miss. I grew up with that. That was my ace of spade when I was young. Unfortunately, there came a part in time where I couldn't get in and out of a certain space, and it came back to haunt me. You know what I mean? So it's one of those situations. But Shawne, great guy. I'm glad I got you on here, man. You look great. And so tell us a little bit about what you got going on with your fights.
Yeah, man, same here. This is seriously, man, it's a pleasure for me to be on. But we got a big fight for Lights Out Extreme Fighting Saturday, September 20th in Long Beach, California. And I've been running this MMA promotion, this mixed martial arts promotion, man, for almost about 5 years. We're live on my network on Lights Out Sports TV, but we got a ton of partners in Fubo and We're on Amazon Freebie, BN Sports, waiting to launch on UFC Fight Pass. And so I've been, kind of the entertainment and TV and production space, man, since I've been retired. Kind of getting out in front of the camera all the time and where the real work happens at behind the scenes. So it's hectic as hell. I'll be honest with you, the fight business is hectic. Monday is fight week, so you got to be ready for some calls. A guy is injured or a cut or something that can't fight. Got to get a replacement. But honestly, man, I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. I was training MMA, back when I was playing, and it just kind of transitioned right into this second part of my life, man. It's just where I've been.
That's good.
Well, he has a shirt that says "Lights Out" on it right now, and there is an origin story to that, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. So let's talk about this origin story for you, Shawne. I mean, "Lights Out," it is one of the ultimate nicknames of all time, and I could tell the story, but I want to hear it from the source.
Yeah,
all right?
I really want to know his perspective. I mean, there was a couple of things that happened over 20-something years ago. Mm-hmm. It's kind of part of his story. It's a part of my story. And it'll be interesting to kind of get to that. Are we going to jump into that now, or is there some other stuff that we're going to throw out there?
Let's turn on the Wayback Machine and find out where he got this nickname, Lights Out. Can we do that?
Let's
right?
do it.
Because this is like, you're a teenager at this point. So what was cooking?
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, a little bit outside of Washington, D.C. And I ended up knocking out four kids in the game my sophomore year. And so, right after the game, I had about 20 or 25 students run up to me saying, man, you knocked those kids' lights out. And so I just said, you know what? Yeah, call me Lights Out. I didn't think nothing of it. I didn't plan it. And this is, mind you, this is pre-social media. So, I got to school on Monday. I got my backpack on. I got my books in my hand. And people walking by me saying, what's up, Lights? Like short for Lights Out. After we got done with school, I get home. And I run to my mom's bedroom. My mom used to smoke cigarettes, right? So she had the door closed. So I'm in there like waving off the smoke. And I finally see her and I said, Mom, I want to get this Lights Out tattoo on my right forearm. And she looked at me. I said, people call me Lights Out. So that's going to be a thing one day. She looked at me and said, boy, get the hell out the room, right? Kicked me out the room. So every day for 2 weeks, I went home every single day begging her to let me get this Lights Out tattoo because I just knew that it was going to be something on how fast it caught on in high school. So anyway, she took me to get this Lights Out tattoo on my right forearm, and that's where the switch and everything, kind of came from. And so I carried that nickname through high school. And then when I got to college, University of Maryland, the older guys, E.J. Henderson and some of these older guys Dominique Foxworth, all these guys, they didn't want to call me Lights Out. They called me, either freshman or they called me by my number. But they would not call me Lights Out. The juniors and seniors was not having it, right? And so we had a big game on Georgia against Georgia Tech Friday night, ESPN. First time I'm on a national stage, and mind you, this is all like a myth. I'm in college now in the big. People heard about it, but they never seen it. Like the country. And so I had a big hit on a wide receiver that trailed across the middle, and I get up and I point at the light switch. So that was the first time that everybody's seen it on that stage. And then the same thing happened when I got to the Chargers. LT and those guys, Randall Godfrey, Donnie Edwards, Jamal Williams. They wasn't calling me Lights Out. They called me the Rook or 56. And so I had to go out and earn it then too, man. It was one of those things. If you got one of those nicknames, it's like having a basketball name at Rutgers Park, right? You got to go out and you got to prove it. And so every level that I played on, man, I had to go out and kind of prove it.
He just knocked me out.
Yeah. So let me ask you this.
Go, Priest.
Well, Donnie Edwards, you mentioned that particular name also. He played for the Chiefs as well. He was one of our linebackers, very instrumental. He was one of our leaders as well. What was that feel with adding, other linebackers and playing on the defensive side of the ball? Like with Donnie, what was that relationship with? You were a younger guy, but kind of what was his leadership during that time?
Man, you know what? I was fortunate because you hear about going to some of these teams where you got these vets that they got really losing attitudes, right? They've been there, they lost, and you're coming in there, you're motivated, but all your OGs, all your old heads are already used to losing. And when I got to the locker room with all the guys I just mentioned, they wasn't having that. I came in arrogant, I came in cocky, I talked a lot of shit. I was just that's who I was. And, you know, a lot of them just pull me to the side, you know, and have talks to me and really get me on the right path. So I walked into a locker room full of vets that were really good, because they could have went south. They could have went the other way. Where you walk into a locker room and these guys they don't care about winning. And that just, it happens. It trickles down to the younger guys, man. So Donnie, I should laugh at him. Donnie was 223 pounds soaking wet with Timberland boots on, right? But he'd go out there and lay you out, you know, go out there and make plays. And so now I was really fortunate to play with a lot of those guys.
I can tell that you probably was able to pick up a lot of vet tricks and vet ways of doing things. How quickly do you think you turn from being that rookie into being like, hey, I'm going to take all these secret ingredients, the things that these guys are telling me while I'm a young pup, I'm going to take it and run with it? Or were you more like, you know what, the heck with what you're saying, I know my ability, I'm just going to be a tough hammerhead type player?
I was the second part first, for sure. I was, you know, nobody telling me nothing. You know, I ended up signing the contract late. I held out of camp. I didn't actually show up till like 2 weeks before the season, so I was struggling catching up to the playbook, and really getting a good feel for everything. So Wade Phillips actually, they made it simple for me. Greg Minuski, I think Greg Minuski was there too as a linebacker coach. John Pagano, you know, and obviously Shawne, who was the head coach, Schottenheimer, and so they made it simple for me to go out and play football until I was able to catch up, man. And I was, again, I walked into a very, very fortunate situation because, you know, you got Wade Phillips as your D coach, you got Marty as your head coach. This type of thing never happens. You know, I come in the locker room, I'm 20-year-old. I just turned 21 when the season started. I turned 21 in May, and the season started, you know, in August, September. So I'm really young. So you walk in, you got Marty Schottenheimer as your head coach, Wade Phillips as D coordinator, Greg Minuski is your linebacker coach, John Pagano is your assistant linebacker coach, right? And all these guys are either coordinators or head coaches throughout their careers. So they were really, really able to get me up to speed because they knew what I can do physically, talent-wise. And so they wanted to put me in a position to make plays until I was able to, you know, catch up with the speed of the game and the playbook and everything like that, man. So I definitely came in there with an attitude, cocky as hell, wanting to hit everybody in the mouth. I mean, I got into it with Low Neal like the first day that we had on pass when I got there. It was just, you know, that was part of my personality, man. But like I said, I was fortunate because I had those guys who said, look, man, we see you. We know what you can do. But, you know, this is how you're supposed to do things, man. And I was really blessed about that.
Now, you talk about Lorenzo Neal. I remember actually being on the executive committee with him. I was one of two former players that actually had a chance to be on that staff. I get a chance to meet Neal, so I know him very well. I had a chance to work with him as well as a former player. But when you talked about aggressiveness, cockiness, take your play then and apply it to today's. How many fines do you think you would have today if we were to take the young Shawne Marriman and bring him to today's play?
Oh, I'll be playing for free.
Yeah,
I'll be playing for free. I mean, I wouldn't see none of that money. In fact, I would just go up there and write one big check before the season started, so they don't have to waste my time going back and forth upstairs giving them checks.
That's one way to look at it, Mark.
He's got like a tab, right? He's
That's
like,
right.
hey, man, you already succeeded over your tab, man.
Put it on my tab.
Yeah,
Just put it on my tab at the end of the game. Yeah, that's good stuff.
That's amazing. Well, I got to say, that rookie season, you know, obviously you had great success. There ultimately were, I believe, 6 Pro Bowlers on that team. And talk about Marty Schottenheimer a little bit, him as a coach, your first impressions, what he brought to the table. Because what you said too earlier, if you look at the Marty Schottenheimer coaching tree, I think 15 of people that he worked with went on to be head coaches in the NFL. So what was special about Marty Schottenheimer?
It's leadership, man. He was just such a great motivator and a leader. And you know he cared. I mean, he was tough as nails. Don't get me wrong. He'll come out one day in training camp and tap you in the helmet to start practice out with Oklahoma drill, right? And then he might come up a week later when you had a great week of practice and he see you banged up and you tired a little bit. And he'll be like, hey, come out here, just take off 9 on 7 or take off in these drills and rest up. Like he would take care of you at the same time. But yeah, we had a great relationship, man. And like I said, I was fortunate because it could have went the other way. You could have came in with coaches that are less like-minded and just really derail you, because that happens to a lot of players. It's not about talent, it's about having the wrong coach or the wrong leadership, and you just start going down that path.
Well, Shawne talks about Schottenheimer. Actually, when I came to the Chiefs, Shawne, I was a little bit, after that era that he had. But I can tell you that everyone that I know as a former player that played underneath that leadership with him as a head coach, they have very much the same things to say about him in terms of a player's coach. Oklahoma drill, the coach is going to be right there in there, yamming it up with the guys, getting everybody excited. So I think that is correct from everyone that I've talked to. Shares the same sentiments about that head coach.
All right. I love it. I mean, he coached for the Browns, too. Got him to all those AFC championship games, but just couldn't get over the hump, man.
That's right.
And I feel so bad for Marty, man. He was so close so many times and just couldn't get it. I want to talk about your first 3 seasons, Shawne. 39.5 sacks. If that was me, and Priest knows this about me and my OCD, 39 sacks, I'd be going back and reviewing every single one of those sacks and say, no. I hit 40. That half was mine. Give me that half back. Do you think about that stuff when you see like that half? Does that bother you?
It was really 39. I got a few halves.
Oh, you got an extra half.
Oh,
okay.
for sure.
Okay. All right. So he stole a half. All right. I see.
Yeah, for sure. I just, I think, and maybe Priest can attest to this. I think a lot of us don't look at that stuff, and it don't matter as much until you step away from it.
Okay.
Right. Like when I was in it, it really wasn't really that important to me. But I got a 15-year-old son now that plays quarterback, Justin. And so, when they talk about the game, or, people talk about it in general, because, a lot of those records, I still hold. Like Micah, who broke a record, I think just the end of last year, whatever his total was in the first 2 or 3 years, like I'm still somewhere in the top 3 or top 4 with Reggie White and some names. And so it doesn't really dawn on me that much until I start to see that, right? Because when you're in it, you don't care as much. It's just numbers. It's just money. It's just whatever. And then when you get away from the game, you start to, man, I played in the same team with LaDainian Tomlinson, right? I played in the same team with Antonio Gates and Jamal Williams and Lo Neal and Phillip Rivers. And so you start to really hash those memories at the time, but it takes you a little bit to get away from it.
Breaking news from Bet365. New customers, Priest, $5. You just bet that and you can get $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose. So sign up, place a bet for $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose.
Bonus bets can be used on the spread, player props, futures, and so much more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. Or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 21 plus only. 18 plus in Kentucky. Please gamble responsibly, and you must be present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, and Kentucky, as well as Louisiana and select parishes. Maryland, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, and Virginia. $10 minimum deposit required. Terms and conditions apply. In-app only.
So let me ask you a question, Shawne. So you mentioned your son, Justin. He's 15 years old. He's playing quarterback. Great position that you have him in, especially for today's the game has now evolved around the quarterback. So great position for him to be in. But let me ask you this, in terms of some of the, some of the hits that have been banned now, how do you feel that going towards your son, if these hits haven't been banned and he had to experience that, what would be your take on that? Or are you glad that some of those hits have been banned?
No, look, when he first started playing, I think he was like 11 years old. And he got drilled one play where he was like slow getting up. And I had a real talk with him after the game where I was like, man, you don't – I think a lot of kids feel like they got to follow in their parents' footsteps because of what they did or whatever the case is. I'll let him know that there's no pressure for me. I don't care what he do. He just got to be great at doing it. So I didn't really – saying, hey, you got to go out here. But I said, listen, if you plan on doing this, this is part of the game. You're going to get dinged. The physicality of the game is going to be there. Now, he's at a different position, and they protect the players way better now than they did back when we played. But either way, it's still a physical game. And so he just – there was no other thought process with him. He almost felt like I was disrespecting him by even having that conversation with him. Like, what are you talking about? This is what I do.
Yeah.
And so now, kind of just sitting back as a dad and seeing it it's pretty cool on this side to really coach, and you see it, right? Like that DNA is strong. That DNA is strong in all of us. So when you go out here and see them doing some of the things or characteristics that I might have done back when I played, it's pretty damn cool.
So we got horse collaring that's been banned. We've got targeting, hitting a defenseless player,
defensive receiver. Player. Yep.
Yeah, we got leading with the head and hitting with your helmet. Those are some of the things that have been actually outlawed. So are you glad that some of those hits, because a few of those hits are the ones that actually I was injured on during my career, and I can attest that obviously my career probably would have been longer had it not been for a few of those hits that are now banned. So that's really good, and glad that Justin's in a great place about how he feels. So that's good stuff.
Shawne, I was going to ask you real quick, though, if there was a father-son game, and I don't know how competitive you are, but would you flip the switch, speaking of lights out, and would you go in and hit and clean them out?
100%. Absolutely. I mean,
that's a good dad right there. That's a good.
You know what, though? He knows that. So it's not like if you ask him the same question, he's like, yeah, my dad will try to take my head off. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that part of it is still in me. I still love being around the game. But I played the game the way it was supposed to be played. And, my career didn't go as long as I wanted it to. I didn't have, the back end of my career where I was healthy. But the times where I wasn't healthy, I played the game the way it was supposed to be played. And that's the way I learned. I mean, I don't know if Priest ever knew this, but my first NFL football game was in 2000, the Ravens game. My coaches, my high school coaches in 2000 asked me if I wanted to see a linebacker and play the game, how the game was supposed to be played. And they took me to a home game, Ravens game, and I watched everybody come out. So my first actual NFL game was the 2000 Ravens, and I saw that team. And they were the most physical team in the NFL. And that's what I watched and mimicked. I watched Ray and Boulware and all those guys, man. It was just, they were a physical bunch. And even in the backfield, they just ran the ball downhill. And that is the way I really learned to watch football. That's what I knew of it.
Yeah, so we had Jamie Sharper back there. He mentioned Boulware,
right.
Some of the names that obviously that Shawne is familiar with. So they're a very aggressive defense. And so I think if you're going to pattern yourself off of a defense, that would be definitely one that you would want to watch. So I know that's really, really good. Also, we wanted to actually go back into a little bit back in history, man. There was a certain hit. There was a certain hit. And so
yeah, we were talking about this before
we
hit record, Shawne. So did you want me to tee it? You want to tee it up?
Well, I'm going to allow you to tee it up.
Okay.
But, Shawne, my take on it is I was like, you know what? I never had a conversation with Shawne to really get his take of really what happened on that play and what's his version,
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of get to that, Shawne, and get your version of it. But you go ahead and tee it up.
Okay, so, you can go on the internet. You can read about whatever you want to read about, but we don't know if it's true or not, right? But I've got the source right here, both sides of the coin. So what better way to talk about this particular moment in time and space, something that changed the trajectory of Priest's career, and injury is something you've had to battle too, Shawne, so you can relate to it. But there was this play, right, between you and Priest Holmes. He acquired the injury. You laid the injury. You know what I'm talking about. So let's get to it. Let's get into it. What do you remember this moment? Do you remember like it was yesterday? What's your mindset on this?
Yeah. And so on this play, I was backed off of the line of scrimmage off in the linebacker's role. So I wasn't up on my usual position. I was backed off. I think they ran a toss or a sweep the opposite side. And so, I'm hauling ass across the field. And, I think Priest was cut off and he cut back and I was right there waiting on him. So Priest never seen me. I don't think so. It didn't appear that he ever saw me coming because I was a backside linebacker on the other side. And so yeah, man, it was a in my side, it was a big hit. Now, I didn't know the severity of it at that time because my adrenaline's going like hell. I'm jumping up and down and I'm going crazy because I had a big hit, but I didn't know the severity of the hit at that time. And so I'm celebrating. The priest is still down. And when we talked about Marty Schottenheimer, so I got to the sideline, and I'm still carrying on. I'm yelling, I'm screaming, and priest is still down. Marty grabbed my face mask, and he said, "Lights, that was a big hit. That was a great play. But don't forget that his family, friends and family are watching this game." So that was, kind of a lesson to me from, Marty Schottenheimer, because, mind you, I'm 21. I think I'm like 21 at this time. You know what I mean? Like, you're not thinking of that. My son wasn't born. You get what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And so it's a different feeling, and it put something in me differently when that hit happened. And for the first time in my life, and I'm talking about, knocking guys out and celebrating and all that stuff in the past. For the first time, I was nervous because I didn't know what happened. And so that's all I remember of it. But it was like a deep thump, and I didn't know the severity of that injury at that time, And so when you're younger, you're not thinking like that, because I didn't have my son, and I got my boys and stuff watching back home, and I got some family, but you're not thinking on that level of the severity at that time. And so that's what I remember of that play.
Now, Shawne, I think that comes from a very mature, grown-up Shawne Marriman. But
that's not elevator Shawne.
Yeah, that's not elevator Shawne. That's not the story. That's not the elevator pitch that probably most people would think of. But I think when I go back to that hit, Shawne, it was one of those plays where you're absolutely right. It was one of those perimeter runs. It was like toss right. You were on the backside. And so just kind of my version of how I recall those things happening is that I get the toss. I'm running sweep right. I get out to the outfield. Well, not the outfield, but I'm still behind the line of scrimmage. So I get to the perimeter, and I'm saying to myself, I'm like, all right, so I can't continue out towards the perimeter. I'm going to run out of bounds. I might as well just cut up and see if I can get inside the in between the tackles, or the outside guy. Mm-hmm. And so I believe, and maybe we'll have to see this, but when this play happened and I sustained that injury, for me it was like, and probably Shawne, you might be familiar with this. For me, it was just, that's part of football. That's what happened. Mm-hmm. He got a good shot on me. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, it was one of those things where I hit a nerve, and then there was no feeling, and I hit the ground. And then for maybe about, I don't know, under 10 seconds, I was down on the ground thinking to myself, like, all right, like, let's just get yourself up. But the nerve and all that type of stuff wasn't reacting and wasn't allowing me to get up. So until they had to call the timeout, and then, the staff and trainers came out there. But one of the things I do recall is it took me probably several years before I ever actually even looked back at that play. Because for me, growing up in Texas, hard hits, getting your lights hit, knocked out, having to get the smelling salt, that's just kind of part of football. So I kind of finally at one point actually went back and like replayed the play to see, it was like, okay, what happened? What could have I done different? And when I look at the play, I was actually getting tackled, and the front of my body was outside of the player. So it was like guys were tackling me when I cut back, like Shawne had said. Mm-hmm. Shawne is coming from the backside, and I don't realize he's coming.
I was
because
ask if you realized he was there.
I don't realize Shawne is there because I'm actually getting tackled at the same point as he's coming, and my head is outside of the perimeter of the player. So the only thing that's out there is my head. No shoulders, no legs, no thighs. And when I replayed it, it's like Shawne came across with one of those
forearm shiver.
It might have been right where his tattoo is, right? But somewhere around there, he came in there with the right forearm, and it seemed like that's what kind of took the blow to the side of my head. So it's one of those things that's part of football. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Texas, so I've knocked out people myself, so I'm very familiar with getting the best of somebody. But I appreciate, Shawne coming out here and telling his version of it, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I was very curious and waiting for your reaction to that, because you finally got to hear the other side of the coin.
Absolutely.
So, do you feel a little closure there?
Well, the thing is that I kind of got closure when I had a chance to go back and look at the tape, because it was one of those things where I was actually getting tackled, and then boom, here comes this blow across the side of my helmet. And when that happened, you could just imagine, with his force, his rage, his strength, and all of that coming downhill on me. and me not even expecting it, and then taking a shot to the side of the helmet, just one of those things that was at that time illegal. Don't get me wrong, Shawne. I believe it was legal. I mean, we could hit with the screws in our helmet. You could hit with your forearm. You could slap at that time. I mean, hands to the face. I don't think that was outlawed at that time. I don't think it was.
Yeah, and Priest, what's crazy is at the time it was like it was a perfect storm for what happened, right? Like if it was a millisecond, right? If it was a millisecond on or off, I don't think that would have happened. It was a perfect time of you cutting back. Shawn Phillips had, had you wrapped up around your waist, and you cut back at the same time. And as soon as you planted and came back, I was right there.
Yeah.
And so I think they ended up going to like one or two, at least one or two commercial breaks. This is when I started to, like I said, before my life ever, whenever I knocked other guys out, they were out, they got up and they went back down, they got up and walked off the field. Never was somebody like out that way. And so that was my first time ever like really being concerned. It was Marty. It was Marty who grabbed me by the face mask and let me know, because you got to understand, like back during our time when we played, we were applauded. We were applauded for that stuff.
Right. Those were the Sports Center highlights, right? People.
Right. Those were the jacked ups. Those were the, you were applauded for that style of play and doing those things. And that's the way I learned the game. I mean, my coaches, says Boys and Girls Club and Pee Wee League football up. You go out and make those plays. They'll slap you in the back of the helmet. They jump, jumping up and down. You get the rest of the team excited. So that was the only way that I understood and knew how to play the game. But that hit was the first time ever that I actually was like, holy shit, this is, it's serious. Now, I felt better after the game, because they put the camera on you on the sideline when you were sitting down, and you did smile. You smiled. You had the camera on you. You did smile when you were sitting down on the sideline. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because if I'm an older guy and I know this, younger guy just got me or whatever, I'm kind of gonna make a joke out. Like laugh it off, because hey, it's part of the game. Like I got sat on my ass. Maurice Jones-Drew blew me up before, and I was on every highlight before we landed back in San Diego from Jacksonville. Like we all know it's part of the game. So I think it was a little bit of relief there too that I saw, Priest crack a smile. And you got to think, I grew up in Maryland, right? So my first game was to see Priest and all these guys there. That was my first learning how to watch football. So Priest, one of my favorite players growing up as a kid, because that was the first NFL game I've ever been to. And so yeah, man, it was crazy. And if you notice, man, like I rarely bring that up unless somebody asks about that play. But if they want to, people ask me about how I got the nickname, I always tell them I got it from high school, and I think that people watch my style of play over the years. And I've never been called a dirty player. I've never gone for cheap shots or hit somebody without looking, gone for somebody's knees. Like I don't believe in that. That is just, but I just played the game one way, and that was the only way I knew how to play it. So looking back at that now and having a 15-year-old son, you don't think like that at 20 in your 20s. You're like a Viking. You're out there just straight animalistic. You don't really have a care like that. And the further away that I got away from the game, and I have my son, and he's older, he's playing now. All those things, when you get older, you start looking at it a little bit differently.
Yeah, Shawne talked about that aggression. That's one of the things, just as a Texas running back, always played with that aggression, always had that inside of me. We always talked about keep your stinger hot, keep that stinger hot, get up on your toes and get ready to launch. So it's one of those things that I definitely can relate to. Shawne, you had mentioned about me smiling on the sideline. There's a little story behind that. I've got actually my fullback, Tony Richardson,
Okay.
And so anytime I either get hit or jacked up, or there's a case where, somebody gets the best of me, I'm always looking at my fullback like, man, where in the hell were you at? You know what I mean? Like, you should have seen that. But on this particular play, I think Tony might have already been engaged with one of the linemen or something like that, and it was kind of left me on my own. And obviously, like I said, once my momentum got stopped, and then not seeing Shawne coming from that angle, man, he had a kill shot, on me. And so if I was Shawne, I would have taken the same shot. If you put me in that same situation and I got a chance to do a kill shot on somebody, I'm going to take it because I was raised that way to take it, But it was a different time when we played, obviously. But going back to that story when you talked about me smiling, so here's the reason why I was smiling, right? So Sean's thinking I'm smiling, like giving the, the thumbs up, like, when a guy gets carted off, you know what I mean? And they put the thumbs up. So it was a little different for me, Sean. So my fullback, Tony Richardson, remember, so after this play happened, they assessed me. They took me in during halftime because it was right around that time, or it might have been in the third quarter. I'm not exactly sure exactly when that time frame happened, but we're on the sideline, right? And I kept saying that I wanted to go back into the game, Sean. So Tony Richardson, he'll love to tell the story, but Tony Richardson, he takes my helmet and he hides my helmet. So the whole entire time, I don't realize my helmet is not next to me, right? Because they didn't hit my helmet. Because they know me, I'm going to go right back in the game because that's just what football is about. So the whole entire time, I'm getting ready to get back into the game. Tony Richardson is telling me, I jump up for something. There was like a big interception during that game, and the defense got an interception. We got the ball overturned. And so I jumped up, and I'm looking for my helmet. And so the reason why I was probably smiling at that time is because T. Rich grabbed me. He says, man, if you don't sit your butt down, don't you know you just got your lights knocked out? You better sit your butt down. You ain't going back in there. He was like, you gonna get them next time we play them, but not today. You better sit your butt down on that stage, So I sat on the bench and I literally was up looking for my helmet, and I kept telling my lineman, "Where's my helmet? Where's my helmet? We just got an interception. I'm going back in." T. Rich is like, "If you don't sit your behind down, you ain't going back in there. You're done. You're done for the day. Yeah, get them next time." It's one of those moments.
Man, I never knew that. That's crazy. And I talk to T. Rich all the time.
Yeah, ask him about that story.
I'll ask him. I talk to T. Rich all the time. Because I remember that. So that was when you smiled at that. What gave me relief. That you were all right. Like you were. But I remember that like it was yesterday because I was like that was the time I was like, okay, everything's cool.
Yeah,
like everything's
that's right.
good now.
Yeah. T. Richardson hit my helmet. I'm looking for it. I'm trying to get back in the game, and everybody's looking at me, scrambling, looking for my helmet. T. Rich comes over there. If you don't sit your behind down, you ain't going back in the game. You're done. Like the game's almost over with. It was like in the fourth quarter. I didn't even realize it was like half the third and the fourth had gone by. You know what I mean? Because I'm just chilling. You know what I mean? I'm just up there just chilling, just like glassy eyed. You already know that I took a shot, and so he says, "Man, the game is almost damn near over. What are you talking about going back in the game? Sit your butt down. You ain't going in there no more."
Man.
Did you ever actually get your helmet back?
Yeah, I got my helmet back. T. Rich tells the story a lot better than I do because, again, he's the one that hit the helmet and my lineman and everybody else. When you take some of those shots like that, you can tell, and I know this to be a fact, Sean, you can look in your teammates' eyes and you'll know like, okay, nah, don't go back in the game. You know what I mean? Because there's a certain look that you'll have. It's kind of like a glassy-eyed, and so that was just my teammates protecting me, because at the end of the game, I'm a warrior, I'm a running back, I'm going back in there. It doesn't matter how hard I get hit. And so, but I'm glad I had my teammates there to pull me back.
Well, Priest, I hate to do this to you, but you're going to sit this next question out. I'm going to go ahead and hide this helmet. So there's a potential alternate timeline here. I don't know if you know this, Priest, but we almost didn't see Shawne Marriman out on the football field because he was a basketball player. Did you know this?
I do recall some highlights that I've seen over the past years.
Yeah, I read some nice, tasty quotes from the Washington Post saying he was one of the 5 best defenders in the D.C. area. Let's talk hoops for a second, Sean. What happened?
I started growing this way, and everybody else started growing that way. So, it's funny, man. Like in my area, I grew up with Kevin Durant, Michael Beasley, Nolan Smith, DeMar Johnson. Like these are all guys. Jack that went to Georgia Tech. To play point guard at Georgia Tech. Jared Jack.
Yeah, Jared Jack.
All these guys came from my area. So I was I think number 2 or 3 defender in the DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia. And I probably could have went on to play basketball in college, but my head coach, Ron Friedgen, football coach, wasn't having it. They wasn't going to let me be a dual sport. And Julius Peppers was the reason why I went to him and tried to play because I said, hey, Pep is down here playing North Carolina. I should be able to play basketball here, and they just wasn't having it. But yeah, man, we came. I played in the same AU as all those guys.
And I'm going to tag on to this because he did mention Antonio Gates, one of his teammates, obviously with the Chargers, also an awesome basketball player. So right now, Shawne, you versus Antonio one-on-one. Who's taking it? Where am I placing
No,
my
I
bet?
can't. I'm probably on the defense side, but he's too much of a scorer. He's too skilled. I was more like Ben Wallace with a jump shot. Like I had that type of game where I'm gonna get putbacks, I'm gonna play defense on you, I'm gonna get blocks and steals, I'm gonna be headache all game. I'll get to the free throw line, so I'll give you 12 to 16 points a game. Probably 9 boards and 4 blocks and 2 steals, but that was consistent.
And a couple of technicals too, right? Couple technical fouls.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. No doubt about that.
All right. I want to see a picture of Shawne Merriman's head right on Ben Wallace's body right here. Can we get that made? That shouldn't take too long, right? Look, there it is.
There it is.
There it is. That's amazing. Do you miss basketball though? Like, do you play basketball with your son? Like, do you still ball at all?
No, not really, man. With me, I've jumped into, the fight business for sure, but also it's entertainment, tech, streaming. And so most of my days are filled with that, man. I'll go and I'll box still. I'll still go, spar with a lot of the MMA guys, either my guys from my league or UFC. I'll get in there and spar once or twice a week here and there. So I'm really active still. And so I stayed away from the basketball courts, man. I'm too scared of popping the Achilles, or my competitive spirit will get me out there thinking I can do what I did 15 years ago, and that ain't happening. So I'll just get in there and get some work in with a lot of these MMA guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do some hot takes, some quick hits with Shawne right now. You cool?
Let's
do that. All right, Shawne. Who was the hardest QB to track down during your time in the NFL?
To track down, it was always Tom to get hits on him because he was smart, got rid of the ball and stuff like that. Even though I got him a couple times in the AFC Championship game, I've gotten him. But believe it or not, man, who's a tricky one was Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay.
Because he
Steelers,
as big as he was, man, he was like slippery as hell to bring down. You would think you got it because he's so damn big, and before you know it, he's throwing 30, 40 yards on his way down. He was just so big. Steve Mcnair was another one, man, who was just strong as hell. You hit him, you bringing him down, and he throws the ball 40, 50 yards down the field as you're taking it down. So, yeah, I played against a lot of those guys. I didn't have to play too much against the dual threat, mobile, and can throw guys like there are today.
He mentioned Steve Mcnair. I don't know if you know this, but I had a chance to meet Steve as a former player. We were done playing. There was a show. I don't know if you remember this. It was called Joe's versus Pros. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember Joe's versus Pros.
And it took like 3 of us former players and 3 guys that played maybe college football and played against each other. So Steve was actually my quarterback during that time. And we had a great time. Yeah, we played a little football, stuff like that. So I had no business out there. I don't know what I was thinking. But it was something that we ended up doing. That's kind of one of my fondest memories of Steve sharing that time with him. So
nice. Joe's versus Pros. I do remember that. That was a lot of fun. All right. So who did you love playing alongside, Shawne, that brought the best out of you as a player? Maybe the chemistry was there, but really it was about them bringing the best out of you and made sure you were your best Shawne Merriam.
It was, man, we had such a close-knit group because we were all really close, man. Like, Phillip Rivers would go and sit down at lunch or dinner with all the linebackers and D linemen, right? It was one of those things, and the linemen come over there with the safeties and DBs. Like, we didn't really have a clique where everybody just hung around each other, and we were all super competitive. Like, there wasn't a day that went by that we wasn't talking back and forth with Phillip. And me and O'Neal got so competitive that we had to come up with the brother-in-law, right? Because we appreciate what I'm talking about with the brother-in-law, because you get to a point you're going to take each other's heads off and you're not going to make it to the game, right? And so we got to the point where we would just clash. We were like, listen, if we keep this up, somebody's not going to make it to Sunday. So, we just had one of those teams where we were so damn competitive that it just brought the best out of you every day because you couldn't slack off. I mean, we had LT as a starting running back at one point, Michael Turner as the backup, and you had Darren Sproles as the third string. I mean, that's how stacked we were. And so when you look at that, what play can you take off? I mean, we had, if Antonio Gates went in, he had Brandon Maliuna, 300-pound, 285, 290-pound tight end that's going to come in and block you. You have Marcus Mcnair that was there, right? It was also an all-pro out of Auburn. Nick Harwick, Chris Dillman. So there was no plays really that you can ever take off, because you take off, you're gonna make them look bad, or vice versa. So you had to compete every day.
So Shawne just mentioned brother-in-law. It's a pact between you as a teammate. That look, it's basically right, Shawne. If you're at 30%, I'm gonna be at 30%. If you're bringing 50%, I'm gonna be at 50%. But there is no way in hell that you're gonna be at 100% and I'm at a 50% and we're about to have some contact. You know what I mean? It's like, take care of me, I'll take care of you. Now, Shawne, what do you think about the brother-in-law when you're playing another team and you got teammates that maybe decide to do a little brother-in-law against the competitive team that you're going against? Like, that's when you don't want to have it. It's like, but it's one of those things where I've seen it where guys have sometimes tackled me in a way to where they're still going to take me to the ground, but they're not going to do it in a way to try to hurt me. You know what I mean? So you can appreciate that when you're playing another team. But at the end of the day, when it's game time, all those limits, all the bets are off on that. So
nice.
Yeah, I mean, you would have friends from the other team, and I'll talk to them a little bit before. I might talk to them after, but for those 4 quarters, I don't know you.
That's right.
I mean, it's business, and I'll come to your charity events during the off season. I'll show up at your dinners, and all that's good. But just know, those 4 quarters, there's nothing there. I got no feelings about nothing. We're trying to win. You got an opposite color helmet on. It's business. And for those 60 minutes, you got to deal with me. And then after that, we're good. But during that time, and it's happened several times when I had problems with guys during the off season. Like I tell you that, Dante Hall, I still talk to him. I still talk to T. Rich. But if T. Rich running the power at me, to me, it's about business. So for those 4 quarters, I'm gonna give you what I got, and then we can talk afterwards. But there's no friendship during the game. Period. I mean, Larry Johnson, when he came, we grew up together in the same area. So but again, during the game, and I knew his dad, I knew his family. During this game, it didn't really matter to me. And so, but I have had people to say, "Oh man, how you gonna do me like that?" I said, "You did yourself like that. You stepped on the field. It's 4 quarters, and then we can have whatever relationship we want to afterwards." But I did the same thing to Larry, and we actually grew up together. So that was just my mentality about everything, man. So business is business.
Yeah, so that's a good one. So I have that complete. I share that same mentality. Like when it's game time, business is business on the field. But if you do ever see that brother-in-law that he was referring to, that's between you and your teammate during practice. You know what I mean? To the point to where make sure you keep me healthy. I'm gonna keep you healthy. You know what I mean? But those are the players that I talked to you about earlier when I say the guys that kind of go rogue. You know what I mean? You're out there getting ready to set up to make a block, and then you got a guy all of a sudden he turns it up to 100%. You know what I mean? And you're thinking like, hey, we're at 50% right now in practice. So yeah, that's good to know. So Shawne is definitely someone I could have on my team.
Well, Shawne, just to let you know, Priest didn't tell me what percent he was at before we started this interview. So thanks a lot, man. Where were you? You turned it up to 80. I'm at 50.
Oh no, like I said, so we got this whole thing with Holmes stretch. I'm Holmes, as you know, and then
apparently I'm stretched.
He's stretched.
So it's nice to meet you.
I got Mark. He's stretched. Yeah, so we're doing it.
Shawne, I want to get some picks from you, if that's cool. Can we do some picks? Let's do some picks. Let's just do the big one first. Super Bowl. Who's taking it home this year? Who you got?
I try not to jump out there too much because obviously I'm gonna be a little bit biased. I play for the Chargers, but I think my 2 former teams could see each other in the AFC championship game with the Bills and the Chargers. That's what I think, and one of those teams going to win. I just think that the Chargers right now are playing a level of football and a brand of football that people don't want to play. And it's bad because everybody's like down in the Chiefs like they aren't as good. That's still a very good football team. It's just the Chargers are better, in my opinion, right now. And what happens is when you dominate so much in a division, at some point those other teams just get better, whether it's coaching, players, system, whatever. Those other teams just get better, and the Chiefs been so dominant for so long that it's about time. The Raiders are better. Broncos are better, right? And so when we played, back when I played, we used to go out and kick the Raiders every year. That was like a stat game for us. And then on my way out, my last year with the Chargers, they beat us, actually. And so that is what happens. And I think that, yeah, man, I believe it's going to be the Chargers or Bills.
Yeah, I think definitely in that division, especially with the Chiefs, Chargers, the division has changed.
It's tough,
even in the same, I think out of the last 8 meetings with the Chargers, the Chiefs went 7-1, So I think if you're a betting person, you're Bet365, you're going to say, in Brazil, I'm going with
the Chiefs.
Going with the Chiefs.
Yep.
But
they showed up. Chargers showed up.
Chargers showed up. They looked impressive. They were strong. The passing game, it was right on the money every time. So it was very difficult for the Chiefs to be able to come back from that. And then also there's a little point in time where the Chiefs, they showed some of their weaknesses, Shawne, and that's open field tackling. We're seeing it time in and time again, especially when you face the Eagles. Open field tackling on the quarterback. Most teams don't get it figured out.
All right, Shawne, next one, 22.5 sacks. That's the bar right now, right, in a single season. Do you think someone will knock that down? And if so, who is there anyone playing today that you could see doing it?
Yeah, Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, Nick Bosa, all these guys are capable of doing it. And nowadays, you have way more opportunity than you've ever had, right? And so
why do you say that? Why do you say there's more opportunity now than ever before?
They're throwing the ball more.
Mm-hmm.
When we went to go play the Chiefs, they were going to line up and run power of some sort, whether it's near, far set. They were going to run power formation at least 25 plus times a game, or some sort of power with a counter. There was always some kind of attack where they were being physical that way, and so that part of the game has changed. It's not happening anymore. I'm not saying they don't run the ball, but we knew we came to play the Chiefs. That was going to be so for a couple of days after that. I knew I was not going to be healthy because they had so many different variations of power that was coming at you, whether it's the fullback coming straight downhill and kicking you out, whether it's the guard coming around and kicking you out, or there were so many different variations where you don't have an opportunity. And by the time you go out and try to pass rush, you're beat up, you're tired from playing the run 30 times already. And so the game has changed when it comes to that. With these guys nowadays, it's just you got more opportunity. They're throwing the ball 70+% time. And when you're throwing as much as that, guys can go on the first or second down, rest up, and come back in second, third down for a pass rush. No, I had to go take on the power from T. Rich, and then they throw a play action. I got to get in my pass rush mode. And by the way, I may have to cover Priest to the flat or something, and then line back up. So it's a different ball game now where they got more opportunities to go out and get sacked. So it definitely could be one of the top 5 that I just named.
Okay. So I think, Shawne, you kind of left off a name when he was naming out some of those defensive players. We've got a guy, Hutchinson, up in Detroit. What do you think about him?
Yeah, and I'm waiting for him to see how he comes back from that injury. Typically it takes a good year to get back from yourself, and I'm just speaking from experience. When I came back from my Achilles and any major injury, physically you feel okay. It's that mental aspect of being able to do what you used to do without re-injuring yourself is really the next step in trying to get over it. So once he feels comfortable enough to where he can get cut blocked, or a guy rolls up on his ankle and he doesn't feel like he broke that thing again or something happened, I think he'll be back in the mix as well. He's one of my guys to watch too.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, we'll do one more hypothetical, and this is for both of you. Okay, so Shawne Merriman's teams he played for, the San Diego Chargers and also the Buffalo Bills. Of those two teams, who do you see winning a Super Bowl first?
Well, if you're asking me, I think the Chargers. Because, and I'm talking about the history of more so the history of Jim Harbaugh and what he's done in his career. You can't knock the history.
He wins everywhere. He wins everywhere.
Every program he's been to, every organization, that year 2 to 5 or 2 to 4 is where he really stepped on the gas. And I can tell you, he's never had a Justin Herbert. This offensive line that they got right now, they're big, they're physical. The defense is playing well. And the Bills are going to be extremely good, but at some point they got to get over the hump. They got to get over the hump. And so and I believe if they don't get over the hump this year, that team can look very different the following year. Front office, coach, players. So you got this short window to win a championship, and their window may be closing because they've already had so many good teams for these last few years.
You agree with that, Priest? You
I
think
think
Chargers over Bills?
Shawne, I think you're spot on.
Okay.
I think Chargers over Bills. I think also just the number of years that the Bills have had, they've had that history of being just that close to where they can taste it. They can taste the championship, but
this
it
is
doesn't
round
happen.
2 of that, right?
Exactly.
4 times in a row previously. Couldn't get over the hump. Now we're back to maybe another 4 years.
Yeah,
in a
Josh
row.
is still an amazing guy. He can
Yeah.
make things happen. He's a gunslinger. But I think as far as the Chargers, they're more of a complete team. And then also what we saw there in Brazil against the Chiefs, they definitely showed why they're being competitive now.
Yeah. All right, we're going to look. Priest knows this. Shawne, it's never ordinary with Bet365. All right, Priest? All right, well, Shawne, we're going to wrap things up here. We want to thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate having you on the home stretch. I don't know about you, Priest, but I learned a few things during this episode and time with Shawne. What to wear when I get in an elevator with Shawne Marriman, which is the exact same outfit, so that I know he's not going to rip my head off. I definitely want to buy a ticket to the father-son game when he's going up against his kid at quarterback. What did you learn? Did you learn anything?
No, I like that as well. I think one of the things that you can take from here is that any, I think, student or athlete that's growing up with a dad that's played in the league, that dad's going to have a certain level of expectation, you know what I mean? And it's going to be one that's pretty high. And I think also that competitiveness never goes to fall to the wayside. I think a young player that has a dad that played in the league, he's going to only expect one thing. My dad's going to expect me to get out there. And if I had to go against my dad is not going to take it easy on me.
Love that. Got to have that respect. And you got to earn that respect too, right? As a dad, you got to earn that respect.
Yeah, glad that's, you know what I mean. I'm proud of you, man, and that's good stuff. And I continue to be in your son's life and to give him those gold nuggets, man. That information that only you know you have, man, to be able to spread, back to him and kind of guide and navigate him through his position with playing football.
And thank you for opening up too about the hit. I think you got to see each other's side of that coin. And you learned some new things about that hit too. And now you know where the smile came from, Shawne. So
get with T. Rich, man. Ask him to tell you that story. Tell him to tell you that story.
I gotta go back to T. Rich now, man, and find out. Cause it's funny, we talk all the time, and he never told me that. So I'm definitely gonna reach out and talk to him, man. But it was good to talk about it. I don't really talk about it a whole lot, man, because you were one of my favorite players growing up. And it was actually my first NFL game where I got a chance to see y'all, man. That's when I knew in 2000 that's where I wanted to play. And watching that 2000s team you guys had with the Ravens, that made me want to play football. And so that is what got me really, really with the mindset, man, I can do this too one day, man. So this is pretty awesome.
That's good stuff.
Wow, that's awesome. Can't end it any better way. Thank you again, Shawne. We appreciate it. Congrats on all your success. Much continued success with everything you're doing now. Lights out. Let's go. MMA, all that stuff, man. Congrats on all that as well.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
You got it. And that's going to do it for us, Priests, in this episode of The Home Stretch.
That's good, man. I love it. I think we're on our way to continually grabbing more viewers, more subscribers. Bet365.
Do the liking, doing the subscribing, all that stuff.
We're
Social media, we'll get nuggets out there, all the social clips, whatnot. And Priest, it's always a pleasure, man. Shout out to Bet365 as well, our sponsor. And until the next one, I think I can put your helmet back. All right, I don't want to hide this.
We're actually going to add a third helmet here coming soon. So next time you see us on here,
well, we got to do the Ravens helmet,
We're
especially with the president of your fan club over here, Shawne Marriman, is going to get you that helmet.
I pulled him in. He had some great things to say about me. Appreciate that, Shawne.
All right, that's a wrap, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
This has been a Playmaker production.